You should be ashamed of yourself. Ever heard that before? With a look or with just those words? You should be ashamed of yourself. And to that, this morning I say to you, no, you shouldn't. Not now, not ever. You walked under a sign on your way into this chapel this morning. It simply says, all sinners welcome. And we mean it. That's not some sort of gimmick. It's not up there to sort of make you smile. It's just honest, and it's just the truth. All sinners welcome. Here. No matter what you've done wrong, ever, you are welcome here. Each Lenten Mass, throughout the season, we start with a quite honest and quite humble admission of just that reality that we have all done wrong and that we all belong here. Through my fault, through my most grievous fault. It is just an honest and humble thing to say that. And that is nothing to be ashamed of. Guilty? Yes, we are. But absolutely no reason for shame. Guilt is my sorrow at the wrong I've done, and most especially at the harm it's caused in this world, or especially to people I love. There's an appropriate place for guilt, but not shame. Not now, not ever. Shame is toxic to the soul, you see. Shame kills. Shame is a focus beyond the action I've done that I know, that I admit is honestly, admittedly wrong, that has indeed hurt people I love. I love way too much it's hurt them. But shame is the belief that somehow because I did this, I'm bad, I'm dirty, I'm no good. In shame, I define myself by that incident, by that experience I remembered when somebody asked the question, what's the worst thing you've ever done? I define myself by those childhood messages that when I messed up, I'm not okay. That when I messed up, I'm no good. Shame is secretive, it's hidden, it lives in the darkness, a darkness that I'm really sort of always aware of, really. In a moment of shame, I feel unwelcome, unwelcome here, unwelcome anywhere. I judge myself as not belonging, you see, not really belonging anywhere. To think of it makes me feel exposed. And there's a bondage in this. We get bound and gagged by self-loathing. And so we hide. We keep people at a distance. We use lies to cover it so that we become shallow and elusive. And any sort of vulnerable life is cut short. It keeps us from sharing our lives freely and openly, from letting people get close because we're afraid that if they get too close, they're going to see it. They're going to see this thing I hate myself for. And I'm so deathly afraid that it will be discovered someday. Some people can't even let themselves feel joy because they don't feel like they really deserve it. Doing what they've done, thinking what they thought, and too often, this shame settles over and around our sexual sins. How many of you, when you were asked this morning, what's the worst thing you've ever done, thought of that? Sometimes it even settles over sexual abuse. The culture shames us. It shames us for the kind of body we have. Shame is oftentimes at the root of some of the eating disorders that we suffer. I see too many people who are tormented by the thought that they might be gay, until they risk everything to tell someone who does not shame them for being gay, but who rather only loves them. And it's the truest thing I could say, that when that happens, when they've come out, so to speak, when they share that awful, awful, tormenting idea that they might be gay, the shame literally disappears. Literally taken off. And there's a freedom to knowing that they're loved in a way that too many in our culture, in a way that they're shamed for before. As awful as abortion or murder might be, as deserving of remorse and making amends and being truly sad about it, there is absolutely no value for feeling shame there either. A healthy guilt, yes. Shame, no. No. Not now, not ever. Perhaps you're someone who's not feeling shame for much in your life right now. If that's true, let me tell you, you're one of the lucky ones. Because believe me, it's real. It's real all around you right now in this very chapel, and perhaps in your own families and amongst your best friends. But perhaps someday it might be your own. I see it in our own churches. Sometimes our own churches do this to us. And in our nation as well. As shame raises its ugly, its deformed, and its deforming and toxic head. As people who themselves were shamed all their lives seek now to shame others under the pretense that if I shame them, they'll change. Under the pretense that this will help them see the error of their ways. And so they insist that others be shamed for their own behavior. Not encouraged to do the right thing, but shamed. And made to feel that they're somehow bad, somehow dirty, and rendered unlovable. Please, my friends, if you're ever treated like that by anyone, even by a church, leave. Or do something to change it, please. Not just for your sake, but to protect other human beings. That's wrong. And it is the antithesis of the gospel. And it only increases, not decreases, but increases the cycle of addiction. It heals nothing and no one. Tell me where. Tell me anywhere Jesus did that to anyone. And when he saw it happening, not only did he denounce it, not only did he red flag the behavior, he put himself in harm's way to stop that poison and to protect that human being that was being shamed. Listen again to God's word you just heard proclaimed here this morning. Jesus did not come into the world to condemn the world, to shame the world. He came into the world so that the world can have life through him. Period. End of sentence. Done. Any condemnation there? Any shaming? This now popular phrase that perhaps for many summarizes all of the gospel? Is it there? We get so used to the darkness, you and I, that we become so afraid of the light. We're so afraid of being loved for who we are, we don't think we can even handle it now. Or we think that somehow if I'm accepted and loved in my sin, I'm going to go on sinning and screwing up. When as a matter of fact, more often than not, the opposite is true. We know it can hurt to walk into the light. You walk out of a dark chapel into the light of day. It hurts my eyes to squint, to block the light. I think we do that with love all the time. I have a friend who walks from darkness into the light and he sneezes. Keeps sneezing until he adjusts to the light. Maybe that partially explains why so few go to confession anymore. Does it? Perhaps because we're so ashamed of ourselves, ashamed to say it out loud to another person, that we can't bear the burden of feeling the shame there for a minute to say it, and so we hide it. We hide in the dark. We hide in the dark. And we're afraid of the light. Listen again to how John describes that here. The light came into the world, but people preferred darkness to light. Everyone who does wicked things hates the light, does not come toward the light, for fear they will be exposed. But whoever lives the truth comes to the light. Whoever lives the truth, tells the truth, comes into the light. Oh, it's hard to adjust to the light. Hard indeed. But the good news is that we can. We can find that under this glare of being loved, sins and all, we matter. We belong. We have a place on this planet and in this church of ours. So we don't need to feel the shame. We don't need to hide it. We don't need to live in the dark anymore. That there is a place for us. You and I need help getting past this shame junk. And sometimes that help can come with the choice to go to the sacrament of confession. To trust someone, even if it's anonymous, even if it's behind a screen, to trust someone, to say it out loud to someone, to ritualize it. And as Paul says in the second reading, I can't convince you with words that you're loved, as awful as a thing you've done has been. I can't do it with words. You got to believe this, Paul says. You got to believe that you're loved just as you are, no matter what you've done. This is a matter of faith. You got to believe it. But with all my mind, heart, soul, and body, and I've seen it again and again and again, confession can help you believe it. It's a help because it helps you put into words in the presence of another. And our community is gearing up right now for our annual confession marathon this coming Wednesday from 2 p.m. in the afternoon to midnight, with priests available throughout the day and the night, numbers of priests available throughout the day and night. And I want you to know, if you haven't experienced it yet, that this moment can be a privileged place where we are guaranteed that we are safe, Guaranteed that we are loved. Guaranteed that the content of this conversation will be protected. And I want to say to you, even a crabby priest on a bad day can't stop the love. The love that takes away the shame. Jesus came to take shame off of people. Come Wednesday if you can. Give yourself that gift, the gift of freedom from the shame that holds you back, that's been holding you back for too long. Let me be clear. No one expects that you will get everything right. No one expects you to be perfect, or that you will not do something horrible before you die. Right now there's a sign over the door. It says, "All sinners welcome." But there's another way to say it that perhaps matters even more. No perfect people allowed. No perfect people allowed.